The wrigglers that kind of weren't looking like they were going to develop well have actually shapened up and started to develop themselves okay.
We're also waiting for these guys to spawn, which are my zebra plecos.
If you look inside this cave, you can see that the male's now got another female up the back of the cave trapped. They look really cute at this size.
But you can see there's a lot of eggs that have just failed in here. Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to Keeping Fish Simple. So in today's video, we are going to be looking at some of my plecos. In the past couple of weeks, I've been having so much success with my plecos. I went from basically breeding none of my plecos and just thinking that I'm going to have to grow them out for the next 6 months to breeding 4 different plecos in the same week. It was absolutely nuts. So if you want to check that video out, there'll be a link up above. Our plecos have continued on and they've continued breeding, and we've got a spawn from our L270s. We've got a trapping over in our L333 tank. I mean, in the last video, we had some L201 wrigglers. We also had like a massive spawn of peppermints. So I'm gonna show you guys all that stuff today. And I'm kind of crossing my fingers that in today's video, we also have some success with the L270s, with the male taking care of the eggs, because I've had a little bit of trouble with that in the past couple of videos. And I'm also really crossing my fingers that we do get some eggs from the L333s. I was gonna make a video today about the rainbow fish, but we've only had our spawning mops in the tanks for a couple of days, and there are some eggs on those spawning mops. I guess let's go have a look at some of the plecos in the fish room.
Okay, so I wanted to start off over on this tank, which is my L333 tank. Now I've talked about this tank in the past, and this is just a temporary tank for these guys. I think I have a colony of 6 of them in this tank. Now I have had some breeding in the past couple of weeks, and I had a male trap a female for a few days, and nothing happened from that, but then he trapped her again and they spawned. If you look inside this cave, you can see that the male's now got another female up the back of the cave trapped. So hopefully we will get some eggs out of these guys. These fish seem to trap for a lot longer than the other species in the fish room. A little bit interesting, but it's good to see that these guys are trapping still. Next up, if we come and have a look at our little L201 wrigglers, you remember in the last episode we had some issues with these guys in regards to hatching the eggs out. Since then, the wrigglers that kind of weren't looking like they were going to develop well have actually shapened up and started to develop themselves okay. There doesn't seem to be any significant issues, but I'm not going to call it early on them making it through, and they do seem to be doing good at the moment. Fingers crossed everything goes okay with them and we can successfully raise all 6 of them up. So I guess we'll just have to be patient and see how these guys go. Furthermore, I wanted to give you guys a quick update on the actual original babies of the L201s. If you come over here to this little breeder box that I've got, you can see that our little L201s have turned into baby fish. So they're actually eating at this size, and they've been eating a little bit of rapashi and a little bit of baby brine shrimp. The rapashi is just a mix of grub pie and bottom scratcher, and I'm not doing anything too crazy with them. They're growing well, and I'm guessing they're all going to make it through to adulthood and will definitely be on my website at some point in the future. But I'm really glad we at least have some of these fry in the fish room. Now also, since the last time I saw you guys, you'd remember that our original spawn of the L397s, the tiger plecos, were in a tub similar to the L201s. Since then, I've actually moved them into a grow out tank with a large batch of peppermint bristlenose babies, and they've actually been doing really well. There's only 11 of them and they hide all the time, so it's really hard to see them. When I do get to see them, it's a nice little treat, but they look really cute at this size. I can't believe how small they are because I've been looking at adult fish for such a long time. So seeing little baby fish is so interesting and so different. I am very happy about this, and I'm guessing I'm not going to have any issues from here. We're kind of out of that rough patch of them being a little bit more fragile, and now they're going to start to become really hardy fish, and hopefully I can sell them in the future. But if we come back over to the fry rack, you can see that we still have our little cocktail mix of plecos in this larger tub. And here we have a mix of the L333s and the L397s. Likewise with all the other plecos, everything seems to be going well in here. Something to quickly note is that I did drop an Indian almond leaf in here the other day, and I think some of the fry rasped on it, but I did lose 3 or 4 of the L333s for some reason when I dropped this leaf in. I'm not going to be doing that again, and that's just a little note. I don't know why that happened. I don't know whether they ate prematurely and it caused an issue with their stomachs or what happened, but that was a little bit frustrating, but at least I learned that tip early. So I'd just try and leave these guys to completely absorb their yolk sac before adding anything that they can eat into their container. Now over on the other side of the fish room in our L270 tank, you can see in here this male appears to be on eggs. Now he actually had a female trapped in this cave for about a day. I then saw the female exit the cave, and that male seems to be guarding some eggs up the back of the cave. There's not really any point in me showing you this because the male did just eat the eggs again. I'm a little bit frustrated about that, but we'll talk about that more later on in the video. Another thing that's also worth updating you guys on, if you watched the previous videos, you'd remember that we had the surprise spawn of black rams. These guys have actually grown up and they're quite big, and I said that I was going to strip them off camera, but I lied and I left them for a few more days, and now we've got to strip them again. They were a little bit larger and they were a bit harder to get in the airline tubing, but they still fit. Now that they're a little bit bigger, they're stronger swimmers, so it's harder to suck them up. So it was a little bit of an effort, but we did strip them out. There's probably a few extras in there, but I'll just leave them and eventually take them out over the coming days. Finally, continuing continuing on from the last video, you would remember that we were breeding some rainbow fish. Since then they've been doing a really good job at breeding, and the mops are starting to fill up with a lot of eggs, so you can see them here. I'm not going to talk about them too much because I'm going to save that for the next video, but we still need to leave these mops in here for a couple more days and really let them fill up with eggs before we try and hatch out some babies. So that's what's going on with our rainbow fish breeding.
So as you guys can see, everything's running pretty smoothly in the fish room at the moment. Besides a few issues, everything seems to be going really good. There's still 2 different plecos that I haven't bred in the fish room that should be breeding. Well, one should be breeding, the other one probably still needs a bit of time, and that's my zebra plecos and my leopard frog plecos. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. A couple months back, I saw a listing on Gumtree to pick up a colony of these beautiful L134 plecos. These guys are the leopard frog plecos that I was talking about, and I picked up a colony of 14. Now that wasn't cheap, and the reason I wanted to pick up the colony is because these guys are very rare in my area, and their fry can cost up to about $110 each at the smallest size. I mean, some people have probably seen them cheaper, but that's about the price here in Australia for the fry. So I've got 14 of these guys currently in my colony, and I've got 2 colonies. So I've got this colony here with 7, I've got another colony with 7, and then I have my own colony that I've raised up over the last 2 years with I think 7 as well. So I've got like 21 of these guys. The reason these guys haven't bred is probably because of the temperature. As you can notice here, these guys are at the top tank, and the top tanks on my fish rack are normally the hottest, so they normally sit at about 29 degrees Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius. And to get these guys to spawn, they need to be at 26 degrees Celsius. What I'm going to have to do in an upcoming episode is take this colony and move them down a rack, down to a tank like this, so that when I turn the aircon off in the fish room, the temperature actually goes down to 26 degrees and they hopefully spawn. You can see here, I think this is a female in front of us, and she does have some grazing on her. I don't know if this is trapping behavior, but they're probably not going to spawn unless that temperature really does come down. For some reason, these guys like it a little bit colder, and these are the only Picoltias I have in my rooms. Instead of these guys being a high Pancistrus or another type of pleco, and the leopard frogs are the only ones that I have in the room that are Picoltias. So that's likely why they haven't spawned yet. We're also waiting for these guys to spawn, which are my zebra plecos. These are the L46, and these are super rare in my area. I mean, in Australia, there's hardly any of these guys available, and the price has gone up significantly over the last year. So I bought these guys for about $550, and I last heard that the fry are going from anywhere from about $800 to $1,000 each just for this fish. This is because they're so rare, and they only have clutches of about 5 eggs. I've got 4 in this colony here, and I also have another 5 in my other tank, but these guys should start breeding sometime next year, and I'm hoping that I've got males and females. Females are obviously a little bit more expensive than the males because it's really easy to get males. For some reason, a lot of people don't have females. Hopefully these guys start spawning next year. You can see why I want to get these plecos breeding. They're very, very good for profit, and I also just really enjoy the fish and want to start breeding them just for my own personal satisfaction. So that's everything that's going on in these tanks. Okay, so it's been a few more days and we're back in the fish room, and not a lot of stuff has happened in the past few days. I've actually had quite a few mistakes, which is kind of frustrating, and I know that it probably seems like if you watch my videos that I constantly talk about making mistakes in the fish room, and that's because I don't hide anything. I'm not saying other people hide stuff, but I openly talk about all my mistakes, and maybe I just make a lot of mistakes as a fish keeper, but I think that it's easier just to be honest with you guys and show you guys exactly what's happened. So when you guys set up your systems, if you want to do the same thing as me, you don't make the same mistakes. I'll show you guys those in a second, but I really quickly wanted to take a moment to show you guys this. So for ages, I really haven't pushed any merchandise on my channel, and that's because I really haven't had any good design. For the past couple of months, I've been working on a few different designs with a few different designers, and I've come up with these. So these are my dad hats. I've actually got 4 different dad hats available. So this one here is my Corydoras dad hat. I actually really like dad hats a lot. I don't normally wear them unless I'm going like obviously out in the sun because there's heaps of sun because it's really bright here in Australia and it's easy to get sunburned. But I do have these available down below. I've also got some shirts available, and it's a great way for you to support the channel. As a lot of you guys would know, I can't actually ship fish overseas. So my online store is limited to my local area basically, and that means that I can't really monetize my channel in that aspect. So I heavily rely on sales to stores and wholesalers to keep my business alive, and advertising from YouTube. So if you want to support the channel, go have a look at the merch. Don't feel like you have to at all. But without any further ado, let's go have a look at some of the things that have happened in the fish room. Okay, so I guess while I'm over here, I'll just quickly show you what's going on in this L333 tank. And I just really quickly wanted to say that we did have a trapping the other day, and I thought we were going to get a spawn, but it's either the female spawned and the male ate the eggs, or the female somehow just escaped the cave. There is no spawn in this tank, so that's a little bit frustrating, but at least we're getting trappings, and hopefully these guys will spawn soon. We do have a few wrigglers from these guys, and I'm actually not too concerned about it. They will breed in the future, and it's not really an urgent thing for me. Moving on. Okay, so if we come over here to our fry system and have a look inside of our raw whiptail container, you'll notice that there's significantly less whiptails in here. I don't know whether I just cursed myself by saying something would eventually happen, or I don't really know what happened, but we lost a significant amount of these guys due to an issue with our fry system. So you can see here we have like a little pump pumping in fresh water, and yesterday this clogged up. Now I went ahead and I unclogged it. It didn't fully clog up, I just noticed that the pressure was down, so I went ahead and fixed that up. What happened was the pump down here that runs the whole system got moved by one of the bristlenose, and it moved out of place and the whole thing turned off. And when I came back, this whole container was just filled with like a cloudy mixture of bacteria, and the ammonia had spiked in here, and we'd lost about 80% of our whiptails. So I'm really actually frustrated about that, because as I was fishing out all the dead ones, I noticed how healthy and full their bellies were, and I probably would have got all these guys up to a size where I would have been able to sell them. It's really frustrating to see this. They will breed again, however. You can see up here, we've got our male, and he'll breed again with one of these females that's over here. So I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, this is just part of breeding fish and having a fish room. Things like this do happen. I also have some more bad news. If you come on down to this tank, you'll notice I put all of the peppermint bristlenose eggs in here. Because we had so many of these eggs and I was keeping them in that bucket, what happened was the eggs that were infertilized started to rot and dirtied up the water really quickly. So we had another ammonia spike in that container as well, and I just decided to put them in a tank and try and hatch them out with some shrimp. Some of them have been hatching, but this method just hasn't worked. Like you can see down here, we got one hatched out, and I'm sure we'll get a few of them hopefully up to size where I can sell them, but you can see there's a lot of eggs that have just failed in here. There's a big cluster here that's just kind of like not that good looking. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really frustrated about this. A lot of other people on YouTube wouldn't show you this stuff, but this is part of breeding fish. I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm not a master breeder yet, and I do have to come up with a better way to raise these peppermint bristlenose and hatch out pleco eggs in the fish room. So until we find that out, things like this are going to happen, and I'm going to be really pissed off about it, but that's just part of having the fish room. Okay, besides that bad news, if we come on up to the L270 tank and have a look in here, you'll notice that our male isn't on eggs, but what's happened is there's another trapping going on, I think over here, and if I flash a light in here, we might be able to see it. There we go, flash a light. Yeah, and here you can see in that cave there is another trapping. So that male's trapping another female, and we might get some eggs from these guys, but I'm not too sure. I am a little bit frustrated. I'm hoping that if we do get eggs, I have a better way to hatch them out in the next video. So if you guys have any suggestions, drop them below. I mean, I'd appreciate any kind of input at this point. I'm going to consult a few other pleco breeders and see what they do when these things happen. But yeah, I'm a little bit irritated by that. You can see there's a few other 270s in here. Quite a cool looking fish. It's interesting to see that the male has swapped caves. I think this is a different male to the other one, maybe. Maybe not. I think this is actually the same male and he's just swapped caves, so that's pretty different. That's what's going on over here. Also, if we come back to our L201 wrigglers inside of this tumbler, you can actually see that all of the wrigglers are doing great. We haven't lost any more of them, and they've all hatched out and they've actually started to grow really well in here. So I'm pretty happy about that. We only have 6, but hopefully when I figure out the best way to raise these guys up, what I mean is to hatch out the eggs properly, we'll have a lot more success with these plecos. Like I've been trying to express, I am pretty new to breeding these plecos, and they're a little bit different to doing other things, and normally with the peppermints I just leave the eggs in with the parents. Learning how to breed these high Pancistrus has been a little bit more different. So that's why I'm just getting used to it, but I'm sure that we'll figure out a better way to do this in the future. But it's good to see these guys are doing well. Anyways, guys, besides that frustrating stuff, that's pretty much what's going on in the fish room at the moment. It's been a little bit of a frustrating few days, but again, these are the things that make us better fish keepers, and hopefully in the future I'll have less of these issues. I think a big part of having a lot of these issues is that this is a small room. A lot of my setups are limited by space, and it makes things a little bit more tricky. So that's not an excuse, but it is definitely a factor in why this fish room is a little bit more difficult to run. Nonetheless, we still are getting a few fry out of this fish room. We've still got some baby high Pancistrus and some baby L397s. In the end, we are breeding stuff successfully. I'd just like to get some of those yields up, and we will be doing that in future videos. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.